Hi, I'm Casey. I'm the executive director of this center, Center 42. I'm not here to speak, but I'm here to invite three friends of mine who are great producers, and amongst them, they have done numerous works that are wide-ranging, from art-based community development projects to contemporary performances that tour festival circuits, to massive national showcases and intimate theatre. I invite Nyam Sulin, co-founder and director of Arts Work Collaborative, Tang Fu Kuen, independent curator, dramaturg and producer, Jeremiah Choi, creative director, curator and producer. Okay. Shall we quickly introduce your work as a producer so we save more time to talk about challenges and also open to a floor for Q&A? Yeah, Sulin, you take?
Okay. Hi, everyone. You can hear me? Thanks, Ching-Li and Culture Link for this opportunity to share, and the presenters as well, Wen-Ning and Tanya. Looks like you had a really fulfilling residency. A bit envious. I assume you're significantly younger than me, and sometimes I wish I had those opportunities back then. So my journey with the arts started out with me working with a few arts companies, mainly in theatre. Started out with TheatreWorks, working with people like Keng San and Tay Tong and Michelle Lim, and then went on to the Necessary Stage for about 6 years, working with Alvin and Haresh. And at TheatreWorks, I did like print, marketing, and some project management. TNS, did arts education, working with community festivals, schools, and then company management as well. And then went on to freelance. So I worked with Arts Vision, Drama Box, doing business development work. And of course, there was Singapore Season in London with Ching-Li and so on and so forth. So basically, I share this because, we were asked to share a bit of our backgrounds and what motivates us and how we got into the work. This is coming out of studying theatre at NUS, second batch theatre studies, so I just revealed my age. But I did that for about 10 years, and it was very fulfilling. Got to work with different artistic directors, managers, fulfilled different roles as well, and basically saw a lot. Did some international work as well. But then I left the arts and I went to do my master's in counseling and theological studies. And that was because I really wanted to expand my skills and my competencies. And to be honest, I felt I kind of stagnated after 10 years in the arts, doing a bunch of roles and then ending up as company manager, and wanted to see more of the world and from different lenses and perspectives. So I did that for about 2 years, 2 different masters, and then I worked at the Free Community Church for another about 2.5 years. So seeing it very much from another angle in terms of community development and also other aspects, like spirituality and all of that, which ties in very closely with the arts. So after doing that for 2.5 years, I really decided, actually I want to work from the position of the arts. I think that really is sort of my core strength and where I come from, and all the rest of these fields are different languages that I can speak. And so together with Siu Hui, who is my co-director of Arts Walk Collaborative, she's not here tonight, we started Arts Walk. And actually we started as a private limited and subsequently became a non-profit company, Arts Walk Collaborative. And I don't have time to tell you the reasons, but suffice to say, we're now a non-profit company. So for Hui and myself, we work in the field of arts-based community development. So looking at community development, but working with artists and arts and culture as wonderful forms and processes to look at community development, to look at personal discovery, expression, and then within communities and between communities. And we're looking at transforming communities, essentially, and making impact in terms of development. So we work in 4 main areas. Maybe I'll call up the last slide. Okay, so we do 4 main things, excuse me, consulting, training, and networking. We produce innovative arts programs and research and advocacy. And we actually call ourselves intermediaries or creative producers. And there's a lot that goes into those terms, but bridge building is one way we like to describe it. And what are we building? And that's the field of arts-based community development. So these 4 pillars then feed into, building capacity of socially engaged artists to do this work, which is part of a much larger ecosystem that we're developing. And then all the 4 pillars in terms of our approach for a program cycle, we call it the DIME model, which is design, implement, monitor, and evaluate. So those are the kinds of competencies and the work that we do when it comes to arts-based community development. So then maybe I'll talk about a specific project, and that's both sides now. So we'll go back to, how many of you have actually heard of this project? Okay, some of you, thank you. This is actually a multi-year, multidisciplinary collaboration, and I'm very proud of this project. It's together with Drama Box. And essentially, it's 3 years and it's still growing. We're hoping to do another 3 years of it, funded largely by Lian Foundation, Ang Shimo Foundation, and recently Ministry of Health came on board as well. And it looks at end-of-life issues. So how do we prepare for our end of life? But more than that, it's also about articulating values about living, our relationships, what's important to us. And involves various artists. We have a creative team, about 8 of us. It involved, apart from the funders, 8 other stakeholders. We built up a pool of about 150 volunteers over the 3 years as well. So it's quite a large-scale project. And initially it was at Kutek Puat Hospital, a community space, but also a difficult space when you think about it when it comes to end of life. So that was a great challenge for the artistic team. Subsequently, next slide. We went to community spaces at Khatib and Toa Payoh and reached out to the communities there. We had participatory artworks, of course, drama as well. We had films, we had talks. There was a whole bunch of different activities, but always with arts and culture at the center. So yeah, I think I will stop there for now because I think, time is an issue, but we'll come back and talk a bit more.
Thank you, Sulin. Jera, would you like to go next?
Sure. Okay. I do what I like to do, and I'm happy I'm making money out of it. I am one that believes that you never have to suffer for your arts in the sense of being poor, and you can always do what you want to do, and you can earn money out of it, but you also earn satisfaction out of it. So how do I become who I am, or what do I do now? I'm a director, I'm a curator, and I'm also a producer. I wear different hats at different times. I manage very, very difficult artists. You call them divas, but I enjoy working with them, all right? But at the same time, I also do my own work because I didn't want to do, my first love is theater. And for those of you who know me, I was a lawyer before. And then in 1997, I decided to go full-time as an artist because someone told me, go for a world tour because we're going to do Lear, and we got so excited about it. I left my job saying that I'm going to leave for 2 years, and after that I'm going to go back to become a serious lawyer and earn lots of money, right? But the 2 years have become 20 years, and I've no regrets about it at all. And the thing about it is that I didn't want to do a theatre company because I want to do the things that I want to do. And I'm happy to say I've lasted so long because I firmly believe in the things I do. And for those of you who will be asking us, so how do we make the money? We make the money because we believe in what we do, and because we believe in what we do, other people believe in us, and therefore they will come along the journey. That will come a bit later, okay? But I've done big projects such as Sing 50 and Singapore Days and Spotlight Singapore, whatever it is, but my most proud projects are actually the Playden Productions. What is this? Actually, I teamed up with Arts House, the Colin Gold's Arts House at that time, where he was so kind to give me a space to actually look into this thing called the intimate theatre for me. What is the intimate theatre? I mean, there is a lot of wonderful theatre that's happening in 2010, around that time. There were beautiful musicals, there was a lot of international work that's happening, theatre works, Rise, Ekachai's theatre, action theatre, and all this really happened. It was really happening, but I felt that the internal voice or the intimate voice of an actor, you don't need to have the glitzy lights, you don't need to have a wonderful production with 10,000 light bulbs or whatever it is, it's missing. The monologues is missing in Singapore at that time. So I wanted to do intimate theatre. I wanted to investigate and go with my friends. Casey is one of those partner in crime. Casey and Ki Hong. We all looked into 3 or 4 productions a year to literally work with an artist, an actor, or or a visual artist, or a musician, or whatever it is, to say, what do you want to say? The ultimate thing is not just to do a production. The ultimate thing is to actually provide a platform for them to discover what they want to say, and hopefully develop it, and they take it on their own and go on with it. One of the most successful production that we had actually was Seluswa, which we had done 3 times with Ghani, and it went to Hong Kong, and it came back to Singapore. After 4 years, it did the second staging, and it became a more established work. I feel that that work can still go on its own, in the sense that the artist must want to own it and continue with it, and that was the platform for Playtime Production. Okay, I've got many other things to say, but then again, I'll leave it to Fu Quen first.
Thank you, Gerald. And Fu Quen?
Hello, thank you. First of all, I have to thank you for having me here. In a way, I have to say I seldom speak publicly in Singapore. I do a lot of talks abroad, but it's just very strange for me actually to encounter my own fellow countrymen in Singapore. First, I would say I function as an independent. Independent means a certain resistance to, the kind of group thinking, consensus seeking, etc., systemic constraints, in my view. So, as early as the late 90s, I had already realized that I had to seek my own way. I was no longer happy within the field here after being actually the first student in theatre studies in Victoria Junior College, and then going on to be again a pioneering generation at NUS Theatre Studies. So you can tell by nature I'm already a bit experimental, quite a lab rat by instinct. So by the time I had finished my journey with Theatre Works as a performer, as what we can say an artist, a creation artist, I decided that was the end. I said bye-bye, and by 99, I decided to apply myself beyond this small field called Singapore. And I have to say that the journey was very long, in that I was also learning, and absorbing as I was seeking all kinds of nourishment. And today I identify myself first and foremost as a dramaturg, because that's really my training from the academy. And when I went into the field of practice, I realized that this was something that I had that makes me quite different from the other people that I was interacting with. This kind of ability to straddle East and West, from theory to practice, that made me quite distinctive, I felt. So then I decided to move, to actually then follow a logic, to apply the logic of what it takes to formulate a process and to follow through that process with a certain flow and a certain shape. I didn't know exactly what I was leading to, however, finally. And so as it went along, I realized that I had to move into being a producer, a presenter, a curator, because there were all these gaps that I could perceive when I was away, especially the time in New York and Berlin and Paris. I was very dissatisfied with the fact that I was seeing the same touring groups from Asia, and I was not convinced that this represented contemporary Asia. And so I wanted to make my own kind of relationship with contemporary artists of my generation. And I was also sure that I would not be able to just find it in Singapore, and therefore I had to traverse transnationally to look for these compatriots, people who are a bit odd, or a bit, who don't seem to belong in their context, or their methodologies or their practices do not sit into their time of recognition. And this was then my mission. It was really to surface them, to do a really huge mapping, and to understand the very context that they're working in, and then to enable them to surface and to push them. By now, in my description, you can guess, while I define my role as a dramaturg, a producer, and a curator, I actually wear all three hats at the same time. So there's no more kind of like, oh, I am only this, I'm only that, unless a certain project employs me as a dramaturg on demand. So for a specific project, I would serve that. But for my own kinds of projects with individual artists, I would always be at any point wearing at least two hats. So there, my description goes. I'm interested in contemporary work. I'm not afraid to tackle this very difficult term called contemporary. I think a lot of what we do in Singapore, especially, we seem to be doing a lot of work, but we never exactly question what is that criticality in what we do. The word critical also applies very much in my practice. Those very multiple meanings of what it means to be critical, to be what is urgent, what is of valuable critique. All these are permutations of the same kind of a nerve system to question and to push. To date, I'm very lucky. I've been able to groom a class of artists who, by their own drivenness and motivation, have enabled us all together to sustain ourselves quite well, to move into festivals, into the festival touring circuits, 50, 60, 70 festivals. It goes on, and I hope it will bring me as well, at one point in this moment, deeper relations with institutions. So one thing that I would like to really touch on is that being independent, it does not mean you are in solitary existence. On the contrary, you are totally always in collaboration and interaction with institutions. And because I actually also went into the institutions at one point, and I know all the logics of working within bureaucracy, of being a functionary, and hence I also take those capacities out into what I do as an independent. And in the longer run, I also foresee that I will return to the institution. So this is the kind of process of regeneration I think that we should be really looking at. That creative producers are not just people who hate the office. No, in fact, actually, almost all of us have been through those very systems of training, and we all can be sitting in the office. But it's because we realize that there's much more and more dexterity needed to address certain gaps and to catalyze and to expedite certain processes that we decide to dislocate ourselves, if only temporarily, to fulfill those functions before we can have a dialogue again within institutions. In the same way, therefore, I hope that people who are already working and currently working in institutions right now would really consider stepping out for a while. It is actually healthy. Very, very healthy, so that you can have a regeneration, right? A resuscitation of perspectives, of data, of goals for the longer term, which would benefit the scene in the long run, if you are indeed a true stakeholder. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Fu Kuan. Fu Kuan, you have toured shows through Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Europe. And the challenges you faced outside of Singapore compared to the challenges you face in Singapore, anything to illuminate us here?
Well, the challenges, for me, I think the systems in Europe, where it is a bit more privileged, right? is because their systems are so diversified in catering to every possible level of production and modes of production. So there they have space for the amateurs, there's space for the young and emergent, and within the space for the young and the emergent, there are all kinds of developmental platforms that are very clearly, clearly formulated and implemented, to then professionalization and how then also policies enable the professional companies and also independence to thrive. So in this kind of very wide spectrum, I find that there's a saying, right? 不打东家打西家, So really then you have those abilities to traverse possibilities, It's, I think that is not really in place in Singapore, where we are often, I don't know, I think there's certain governance, logics of governance, which are very centralized still, and that does not enable people to go deeper. Yeah, it's to be both, fluid across and also to go deep. Yeah, and it's more than money. It's really more than money. I've just come back from Manila, where I spent 10 days with an artist-driven initiative, which thrives on so little money, but they are giving support to each other and one another, and they're giving what they can. They're just stopping all they are doing on a daily life sustainable basis in order to give to one another. So this kind of generosity, I don't find existing in cities like Singapore, Hong Kong, within, let's say back in Asia, it is really lacking. These kinds of spaces of finding true comradeship, not just being in a mode of production that keeps going because, the system demands you to. Yeah, so it's the qualitative. I can share right now that in my travels within this year, whether I've been very much exposed to the Sino-speaking world, that there are, the two accents, the two very big axes that they keep talking about right now is a kind of anxiety. The two words are, or the roles and functions are, the creative producer and the dramaturg. Why? Why? Because in the next 10 years, there are going to be like 100 centers popping up everywhere. And centers meaning not just theater spaces, complexes, but also galleries and museums. So with this kind of, with this kind of profusion, how do you then make distinction against one another? You can only be qualitative in the way you produce your works, so that you have works of quality, of distinction, of excellence, right? So this is the whole aspiration towards the qualitative is now placed in these two functions. The creative producer to generate those contents of exceptionality, and the dramaturg to accompany the process in order that the logics and the material process are all in place to deliver that mark of excellence. And right now, I hope we should not, in Singapore, of all cities in Singapore, understanding the kinds of system we've undergone, be afraid of the word excellence. I think somehow and that's my sense, in the last few years, everybody starts to say like, everybody can be artists, everybody can create, everybody can do that. It's just like, no, I'm sorry. No. Let me go back to a certain elitist notion. And I'm not afraid of this elitism. If you want to I've proven that I can deliver excellence. So do not be afraid of that. Do not dumb down. Do not go like compromise. Do not go, These, in the longer term, will only just make us mediocre. Yeah. So if we don't recognize this right now, the other centers are going to take over. You can keep producing and then being very happy, but you are just kind of in this framework. Yeah.
Thank you, Fukue. Talking about your experience in Sino, Gerald, you had an experience with producers meet in Hong Kong, and you have something to share with us?
Yeah, I just came back from Producers Network meeting and forum together with Kim Seng. We went there for a week. Of course, there were a lot of representatives from China, from Hong Kong, from Macau, from Taiwan, from Malaysia, and from Singapore, Chinese-speaking region. And we were quite shocked at the fact that Hong Kong is building, that's not shocking, Hong Kong is building 17 venues in the next 10 years. And within the West Kowloon immediate neighbor, there's East Kowloon, who's going to produce 5 more venues also within the next 10 years. But we were told that China is producing 800 venues. Not 80, but 800 venues in the next 10 years. Venues including theaters, music centers, galleries, whatever it is, not only in the first tier cities, but the second and the third tier cities happening. And the very purpose of this meeting is to prepare ourselves, for what is going to come. In the past, it's always been producers or companies looking for venues, and we always, having problems. We cannot do a show because certain venues are always overbooked. Sorry, you have to wait till 2018 to book your drama center, for example, that sort of things. And would your production be in the right venue? Because you have no choice. You have to take this venue because otherwise there's no other venues around. And hence, what is going to happen? And this meeting actually jotted us quite a lot. And suddenly there's a shift in mindsets because you no longer have to worry about venue. Okay, and you no longer have to worry about producing for one space or one city because people are beginning to say, oh, if you have a production, can you share that with, say, Taipei? And the moment you hook up with the people in Taipei, Tainan, Taichung, Kaohsiung wants you also. And there's not only that in China, you also have partners in the various cities that if it's a similar venue with a similar identity or similar kind of work that they like to see or produce or present, then can you not network there? And so we started asking ourselves as producers, so is there this brotherhood or sisterhood of producers in that sense? Can we tap on each other's knowledge? Can we tap on each other's expertise? It doesn't necessarily have to be collaboration, but it's maybe resource sharing. If I have a problem, I'm coming to Singapore, I'm not sure what the law's about. Certain, I want to say, same-sex kissing, for example, you can ask the resource person in Singapore, can we do that? Or will we get into trouble? Or is it legal or illegal, whatever it is? If you know what I mean. But this is important because I think the mindset of producers, and especially creative producers in Singapore, needs to be, we need to start thinking about what it is now. What are we going to do in the next 4 or 5 years? Because the world is changing with or without us.
Thank you. Sulin, we were talking, Gerald talking about venues built, but your works are interesting. You go into those venues that are not built for shows. Do you find any challenges with that or any pointers for, for producers out there?
Venues.
Yes.
Well, I guess when we do community-based arts, it is very collaborative. It might be slightly different. I think there's a whole range of ways of creative producing and collaborating. But already when you work with communities, it's artists, it's communities, that's already bringing 2 groups of people together to collaborate. Then you have your other community stakeholders, volunteers, your venues, so on and so forth. So, getting venues in Singapore in community spaces can be challenging if your community stakeholder doesn't believe in your work. So, of course, if the topic is a bit more sensitive, it'll take a lot more convincing. But on that note, I mean, because we also do placemaking projects where we want to work with communities to do a longer term, sustained work looking at community development. But increasingly, we find that community spaces where significant work can be done, can be staged, you want to build or install something, it's harder and harder to find community venues that are available because it's being built up for retail purposes, or you're not allowed to play basketball or in public venues, and there are barriers to that. Certain places are demarcated for certain uses, licensing and all of that. So that's something that we've realized over the years as well, that it's not so easy to do community-based work actually at non-theatre venues. So yeah, but it really comes down then to the quality of the collaborations. And as creative producer, you really are there to shape and design the projects and the stakeholders that come to the table. A lot of education goes into the art making process and what you're trying to do when you engage communities, especially when it's civic engagement, where it's participatory. Things get a bit more gray. You do things like forum theatre. Yeah.
Thank you. Each of you has at least 20 years in the industry, 20, 25. So as artists and also as producers, and then we are now here at 2016, what are your wish lists for yourself as creative producers and also for the next generation of creative producers out there?
Okay, I'm first to say, I'm very sensitive about next generation of producers because I haven't done my time yet, okay? I am still learning, I'm still blossoming, and I'm still at the beginning of it.
Well said.
Thank you. Okay, no, don't get me wrong, okay? I love to work with people, young people, old people, whatever people who wants to be in this industry. And I feel that there's a need to nurture younger people, giving them the platform. So let's not forget people who's been at the game for a long time and still want to be at the game, all right? I just want to clarify that. Now, important thing, thank you. I think the most important thing is about what do you want to say? Honestly, why do you want to direct? Why do you want to act? Why do you want to produce? It's all about your own beliefs, because at the end of it, all right, if you believe in what you're doing, it's not just about passion. It's about how you want to say what you say, and you can take as long a time to say it does not matter because it's what you believe in. Then you're in it for the long term, and your voice can be heard. And it doesn't have to be big productions. I always believe we can always start small. But it's okay to have big visions, but start where you can. So take the Play Them production, for example. We didn't get much grant from National Arts Council. They did give us, and we're thankful for that. But the premise for the Play Them production is we always make our production below $30,000. Now, it's almost impossible. From the rental of the venue, which is half subsidized, to ticketing, to the costumes, to artists demanding, buying all kinds of things that they don't use subsequently. I mean, but it's part of the process, right? We've gone through it. But you see, as producers, you set what you want to say at a particular budget, and you make it happen. You always ask, I always ask, the other thing is I do not produce the things I direct, okay? Because as a director, you always have certain demands, and as a producer, you always try, and your bottom line, your P&L is important, right? So, but what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, I think when you want to say something, even the house is 2%, 20%, 50%, it does not matter, because at the end of it, it will only get better because you believe in what you're saying.
So your wish list is that?
My wish list is allow me to do what I want to do. Okay?
Yes.
Just that. That's all.
Wish granted.
Thank you.
Sulin?
I think it's a very exciting time. My wish is to see a lot more creative producers in the scene, and that we are networked better. There are more training opportunities, even things like sharing office space, but to be really able to come together and design meaningful arts projects and collaborate with a whole bunch of not just artists, but also non-artists, to really broaden the understanding of arts and arts processes and the impact of the arts for society. So I think, yeah, and there are not that many of us around this point in time, I think. Please prove me wrong. I think a lot of people are interested, but maybe you're not quite sure how to start. How do you go about getting the experiences? Where do you find your collaborators? And I think we need a bit more direction or platforms for that kind of community to form. But certainly, I think the way the world is going, we're more connected. Resources are out there. It's about being creative in getting them, and a lot more generosity, I think, is required.
Yes.
Yeah.
Phu Quan?
Wow, difficult. I often wonder what still makes me Singaporean. Yeah. I don't have an answer for that, but I think I would like to see myself continuing to cross borders in every sense of the word, and to realize projects and dreams with many more people from Singapore and outside of Singapore. But I don't wish to carry this nationalist thing. I don't have to explain anymore that I am still Singaporean somehow, And so I think we have to think beyond these kinds of very categorical definitions of who you are in order to justify what you do. I think if you are truly a creative producer today, you cannot just work within a very strict confine. You have to apply yourself beyond and very far to places that you have no imagination of. And that there then truly makes you very inventive and even more resourceful and therefore more ambitious. Right now, I can say that I just came back from Taipei and I shocked myself. I was teaching in the National University of the Arts and I lectured for 3 hours in Chinese. Yes, believe it or not, I did. And I shocked myself. And so this then, makes me feel like, where farther can I go? How deeper could I, insert myself beyond Singapore? So I would like to see myself moving into larger scale projects in the longer term, so that I would also challenge perceptions of me as just itinerant, of just being, an individualistic person. Quite the opposite. I think I would like to reverse some of these perceptions to say that I can go wider and farther. And my only note, really, to potential young creative producers out there is that you must know how to take care of your health. It's both mental, spiritual, physical, because I think at any one point, all of us in that kind of exhaustion have or nearly broke down. And I can speak from my personal experience that I was at that point unable to do anything. And I don't wish it upon anyone to ever come to that point of fatigue that you can't even function. So, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, let's open to the floor for Q&A. Anyone have any questions for the panelists here? Cheng Li and Woon Ying and also Tanya. Any questions? Yes.
Our project? Hi. Anyway, I just wanted to understand, I mean, we've heard from all of you, and it's obviously amazing how you guys have stayed in the industry for so many years. But if there was the one thing I'm really interested to know, what gets you up in the morning? Like, what is the continuous, like if you had to distill it down to one motto or mandate that, just something that might inspire some of us, will probably inspire any one of us here. Do you have like a every day, or I need to, do you have a mandate that you distill it down to? Why do you keep doing this? Obviously exhausting work.
I'm glad you asked that question because I was going to say if you want to be a creative producer, you need to have a very strong vision, a very strong personal vision. Because that is the thing that will keep guiding you when the exhaustion hits, when you're sick, when your collaborators don't work out. You have to be very clear why you're doing this work and where are you going with it. And the answers, I mean, there's that big answer, and along the way, things might change or, new things might be revealed. But I think you have to understand yourself very well and why you're doing this work. For me, arts-based community development, I love the arts. I don't mean to instrumentalize it, and it's not about that. But it's about people. It's about relationships. I think the ultimate form of poverty is the poverty of relationship. And the arts and culture are strong connectors, and they are the crucible where a lot of things can happen on many different levels. The arts intersects all levels of society. It's not just about arts and culture. It's about economics, politics, sociology, spirituality, so on and so forth. And I see so clearly how artists and cultural makers can be leaders in all these spheres and make social change and make an impact that goes beyond audiences and productions. And, it's the very core value of what makes us human. It's about bridging differences. It's about making a society better. And that's what drives me.
I'm very selfish. I'm doing it for myself. And because, like, for example, I'm hatching this musical called Bukit Merah for the past 4 years. And I've been working with these collaborators, and they're very, very good, knowing that we are taking as much time as we are to do this. And yeah, we're not making money out of it, but we are craftsmen. We want to make sure that whatever we put out is something that we're proud of. And that's what keeps me alive every day, every morning when I go on. And sometimes you just have to leave certain things and come back to it because you can't force it. But when you come back to it, the love for that particular project or the particular vision grows, and you've got the right product. But if you think that, I don't want to touch it, I don't want to do that, that means it's not something you should do, or not a project that you should touch, because it's like a child, right? If you give birth to that child and you do not want to tend to that child, then I think, something is wrong somehow, yeah.
I think for me, it is about the frontier, because I'm so much, that experimental kid. So I think I would not be satisfied until I ask myself, what next thing that I haven't done, that I should, even if I cannot see it yet, go. So yeah, it's this need to just dive. Yeah.
When I wake up every day, I feel so happy that I don't have to go to the office at 8 o'clock, wake up early and go to the office. So and I work in an office, I work in a government, institution for 25 years. I was running the festival, running many things. I was very privileged, engaging in producing, organizing. But it was very exhausting. And now I love the freedom that I have, not feel the need to rush to the office. I meet artists, over coffee. I travel. I still work with artists. I represent international, local artists. I tour them around the region, around the world. And then I can, I'm very happy to be able to design this creative producers program, with the networks and with the relationships that I've built, and it was something that we could put together because of these long friendships that we've maintained. And I think that's one thing important to learn is that you must, generosity, I think, is very important. The generosity of your spirit, of your time, always not just making friends, but really getting to know them. When you are working with artists, go backstage, greet them, say hello, and so it's very important to build all these relationships because you never know, could be 5 years later, 10 years later, it could be tomorrow, it becomes very useful to you. And so that's very important, generosity, friendship, having a conviction, and to be resilient, because in this business you encounter all kinds of problems, difficulties. Sometimes you bite off more than you can chew. There have been moments when I wake up and I think, oh shit, you know, I think, why did I do this? But actually, it's at the moment of self-doubt when you actually overcome yourself and surpass what surpass what you thought you could not do. One can actually do much better. So I think that's my message to the young producers or baby producers or older producers. So now, yes, I wake up and I enjoy my freedom and the ability to roam and to move and still doing very much what I have the passion for, to support artists. Maybe if I were 10 years younger, I would do more creative producing. But I think now I like to work to help, create networks, help to mentor, to support people who would like to be engaged in this field.
Can I also add that? I mean, it's not all that rosy. It's freedom, but also at the same time, because it's freedom, you can also work on weekends and to late hours and all that. So I want to reiterate what Fu Quan says. You need to take care of yourself. You need to find time for yourself to breathe as well. And that's something that I've just learned over the past few years. I mean, I'm a workaholic, and my friends know that I can take on like 10 projects at the same time, whatever it is, and still multitask, right? But I realize if you do that, you don't stop and think and reflect, and then you won't be able to create works that mean something to you, because you're just churning out work, and that's problematic as well. Of course, it's good to be hardworking, but at the same time, you also need to work smart and breathe. Yeah?
Hi. Just like to thank all of you, and especially the organizers, for having this session. I'm just going to frame this in terms of where I'm coming from. I'm an artist myself, and I'm at a point in time where I've been producing my own work and my own shows for quite a while, and I'm starting to produce for other members of the dance performance collective that I'm in. And a question that's been staring me a lot in the face in the past few years is really like that art making just doesn't seem to fit in an economic model in any sense, and I'm really like clutching at things to feel a bit more like optimistic tonight, looking at it from a producing point of view. But I would love to hear your opinion on how you look at taking risk. And there's artistic risk, creative risk, but then there's still the financial risk. How do you look at that?
Jared?
No, really look at what you do. I think at the end of the day, I would seriously advise you not to produce work that you are artistically involved. The reason being, the artist in me or the director in me wants certain things to be done in a certain way, and we shouldn't curtail that artist's spirit or the vision or whatever it is, right? But the producer will then look at the whole production in a different view. The producer's job actually is to support that vision in the best way possible. But sometimes certain artists will say, I want a chandelier, $5,000 chandelier, I want to smash it in each production, each show. So you need 10 shows, therefore the 5,000 chandelier will be $50,000. So the producer will then ask, is it truly necessary? And hence, the producer is important for you to have a check and balance. But at the same time, if it's truly, truly necessary for that vision to be had, right, then the producer will have to go and find that $50,000 to justify that work. You know, that's happening. And how do we find the money? There will be times that you have to question yourself, what am I doing this for, okay? And hence, that's why I have a commercial side mind where I actually earn money to help me sustain artistically in that sense. So the important thing is, do not do a work because you can get a grant for it. Honestly, there are artists who are beginning to say that, oh, you don't give me a grant, I'm not going to do a work. No, I'm sorry, then you're not an artist, because your work is dependent on what people want to pay you for. Not to say it's bad. You can be a commercial artist, sure, whatever it is, but your vision is then curtailed by the fact that you can get a grant or not. Then I really doubt what you want to say is really what you want to say. Okay?
I'll just add on and say, do consider collaborations, because sometimes, depending on who you collaborate with, and I guess you do want to choose collaborators who might have access to other types of stakeholders or pots of money that you might not have access to. So when you combine that together, you have a lot more resources to work with. So I think collaborations are a really healthy way to go to share resources and to get something that couldn't otherwise have happened take place. And I think it's a great learning experience for everyone. And then you're exposed to a lot more other stakeholders as well who then know your work. The other thing that, I've learned working with, the Necessary Stage and other companies is, we do a mix of repertoire. So there's some work that brings in the income, like, arts education, or you do work for companies, or you do commission work. But then that also then affords you the ability to do work that maybe it's harder to get sponsorship, or it's more experimental and ticket sales might not be. It's not a blockbuster musical, for example. So that's how you balance out in terms of the varying pools of income. So a mix of work. So yeah, don't know if that's helpful, but.
Yeah, this balancing out is very important for anyone working as an independent. Because you really, of course, in the first place, I would say just don't spend where you don't have the money, right? You really have to recalibrate your entire, economic self. Do you really need this or that or neither? So these kinds of decision making is important if you are talking about sticking true to your, ambition and integrity of making a work. Next is really produce slowly. Produce really slowly. I can give you the instance of an artist from India whom I worked with. I had seen her after her graduation in Belgium, and I knew she was special, and I said, keep in touch. Then she disappeared for 4 years or 5 years. And then later, I said, where are you? What are you doing now? She showed me the draft of her work. And I said, immediately I would produce it. So then we have toured it. And so what's your next work? I asked her. And she showed me fragments of it. And we've tried to put it into residencies for further development. And it's not been really working well. So then I tell myself, I have to give her another 5 years. That's only fair, right? Because I believe in her. I just don't think she has the capacity in whatever condition she's working under to produce the material that is of, a deep logic. So, yes. And recently she contacted me again. And she says, you won't believe it, but I've been working on it. So I said, okay, we'll meet at one point somewhere and we would pursue this project again. So it's this kind of long burning process that you must be really prepared to undergo in order to, to really get down to that true quality that it deserves.
Yeah.
Hi. Hello. Thank you so much for sharing. And my question, I guess, it's kind of related to what was asked just now. I find I work full-time for a theatre company, and I'm a production manager there. And because I'm the only one in the production department, some of my duty cover. But what I'd love to hear is how you navigate the tension between this thing I find which is just putting on the work, which is almost like serving the budget, making sure the work actually happens, and also growing the pool of people we have, paying them responsibly almost, so that they can continue to work in this industry, because we work with so many freelancers, continue to work in this industry and also continue to practice their craft, because I think we've seen a lot of people drop out of theatre simply because they cannot support themselves. I'm very aware of freelancers not only being artists, but also being caregivers or breadwinners. So I'm just curious how you navigate between those two, just serving the work, but also this sort of responsibility towards the industry as a stakeholder, as you mentioned?
It's a long process, and therefore you have to wake up every morning and say, yes, I want to do it. I always give this analogy between volumes and values. Okay, when we are younger, we do a lot of volume work, as in like repeated volume work that gives us $50 each time. And therefore we need to do 10 of it to get $500. And hopefully over the years, you build a reputation, you build your body of work, you build a trust, and that people want to come to you, not because you can do this work well, but you're unique in doing it. Therefore, they will come to you because of value, and hence they will pay you $500 for one job. So therefore, towards the end, you can get one job for $500 rather than work 10 jobs for $50. That's
But I mean in the position as an employer, not as an employee.
No, I'm talking about freelancing or being an employee as well, because as you start off as, for example, you start off as an executive in a company, then you begin to learn to want to do something, and then you prove yourself, and then you get to become an arts manager or a production manager. And then slowly, you want to then venture out to do your own things, produce your own things in that sense, and therefore you become a producer of your own right. But it doesn't have to be, oh, I have to just jump from being a production manager to become a producer. You have to get the experience, the exposure, and you have to have your own vision subsequently. And then perhaps become, I won't say the creative producer is the top of the heap in that sense. It's just one of the other career choices that you can make. And if you think that you can value add in the sense that you want to creatively do a project and hold everybody together, like for example, the creative producer actually hires the artistic director or hires the designers or whatever it is, then it can be your project. And you can start off even now as a production manager in the company, you can start off as your side project. Do that and gain the experience and slowly find a name for yourself, and either you can subsequently approach people you worked with and will be willing to work with you for whatever you are paying them, or other people will ask you to come and produce for them. So it is a process, but it's you want to do it, not a natural choice of promotion over the years or whatever. Because I think each one of us here, at one point in our life, to say that I have a vision, I have a production I want to do it. So it's a question of whether I'm doing it in 3 years, 3 months, or 3 days. How you want to do it. So and money is always a problem. You know, I mean, I've dealt with budgets with $20,000, $200,000, and $2 million, and $6 million. It'll never be enough. But it's a question of how do you get your resources together and how do you plan? Because the producer is really a master of everything. You really have to hold a nervous, insecure diva hand at the backstage. Not that the person is not talented, but the person is just having a self-doubt just 5 minutes before he comes out. You know, and you have to do that. And it's the quality of being a producer as well. You understand what I mean, right? Yeah. So have I answered your question? Not quite.
I'm not quite sure I fully understand your question, but I think my personal philosophy is, as a creative producer, that whoever I'm going to engage on this team needs to be remunerated fairly, and I will not do the project until that is in place. So the funding has to be in place, and if it can't be and the project has to happen because of maybe venue availability or whatsoever, I have a percentage system. If I'm like 75% confident that I can raise the funding, I may go ahead taking into consideration who the collaborators are and what the risks are. And then we might tweak the scale of the production based on whatever funding can then be ultimately achieved. But the bottom line is everyone needs to get paid, and no one is doing this for free. So that's my personal philosophy when it comes to sort of a project. Then my meta philosophy is, so I go back to knowing yourself very well and knowing how much are you willing to sacrifice for your vision, and being very clear about what you're sacrificing and is it worth it. One of the biggest lessons I have had to learn and am still learning, and I think I'll learn for the rest of my life, is how to let go. And so asking just very honest questions of yourself and what is the value of this work and how much are you willing to sacrifice. So being self-reflexive all the way. But yes, always taking care of others first. I think that's really important. your responsibility as a creative producer. Yeah.
Thank you, Sulin. I think that's very, very good advice. Perlin.
Hi, I'm interested in the relationship between the creative producer and the artist. And all of you are from, I guess, different sectors of theatre and art production. What do you think is the key a key point that a creative producer has to have with an artist? Like, what is the key thing that the creative producer has to do when he's working with the artist? For example, I mean, a lot of the times you guys wear different hats, fundraising, but also you mentioned something like encouraging the artist, giving the artist confidence, and then, so if you can elaborate on that and also share maybe a little bit of how you had to deal with sometimes an artist that, like for example, Tanya was sharing, if you feel the work is not good enough, how do you manage it as an artist and, I mean, as a producer, but also not, you know, I mean, how do you actually manage that in a positive way?
Well, because I identify and position myself first and foremost as a dramaturg, so I'm already reading the prospects and the formulation of the project with the artist before we even decide to take it on. So therein is already a lot of processing and logic arguments. And once we decide to embark on that project and something goes wrong, then because I wear several hats, therefore this also becomes my way to enter the project, to shape it. Sometimes I would say, no, not that title because it's too provocative, because all your funders are just going to raise their eyebrows and not give you money. Then as a producer, this is the decision, for example. So if it's about the methods, the methodologies, or the content of the work, which, you know, goes haywire in the middle, then I'll step in assertively to work with them to rework the order of the production of the material itself. So it's really, you know, then of course I also wear my hat of the market person, meaning as the work is finishing, I also have to ask, you know, at what kinds of market it can enter. And so if I were a bit more ambitious, I would try to push it to a level where I think I can hit the bigger festivals. If not, then let's be modest. Maybe the first draft, right, the so-called premiere, is still not mature, and I can, you know, I can still take time with the artist to polish it in order to graduate it to another platform. And all this is really to protect the artist and the artwork. Because we, as producers, finally, we must really be very aware of its conception, from its conception to its final reception. Because if it is placed in the most vulnerable, when the artist is placed and his work is placed in very vulnerable contexts, this means a risk. It's like a destruction, a possible destruction for the artist. So as the producer, I'm always questioning at which level it is, and how much then I need to do in order to bolster it or to shield it from further. I mean to shield it from its from disintegrating into fragility. So these are, I can't tell you, you know, and I can't give you a case study right now, but you know, these are some of those reflexes that you have to keep, you know, tossing. You know, these skills you have to keep having to come up with in order to keep the artist and the delivery of this artist into a good place.
I would add on and say that as a creative producer, you're in the position to design this project and also choose your collaborators. And the assumption is you would choose collaborators that you have already an existing relationship with, and a good enough one, because you need that kind of honest communication. And I wouldn't recommend you collaborate with someone without this pre-existing relationship and creatively produce something, because the power balance will be off, you know. And so if the assumption is you have that pre-existing relationship, then saying things that are difficult or challenging is possible, because there's a certain respect in this relationship that you've set out together. So then it comes down to facilitation skills, be it with the artistic director, the artist, your partners, your stakeholders. But also you have to be a good communicator. And I think these are other qualities I like to throw into the circle, because if you cannot communicate effectively or you can't facilitate conflict, I think that's going to be challenging. But at the foundation is you need to have a good relationship with who you're collaborating with, and that will open the way for conversations that are a bit more natural and authentic, and you don't have to feel like you need to put on a front or speak a particular way to get a point across. And if that is so, then I kind of question where is this relationship mutual in the first place?
I think the artist is at the core of the entire relationship in a way. Artists are very fragile. You know, as an artist, I am, because I only want to hear the good things, right? So as a producer, you must know when to cajole, when to be firm, when to be nurturing, when to tell the truth. And you must find moments for that. It's very, very important. That is one very important attribute as a producer, a creative producer. You are almost a nanny in that sense. I mean, I had one artist who demanded that she wants green apples in her room. And you think that she will be a diva, but actually having green apples in the room calms her nerves. So if you understand that, then she is not a diva anymore. You understand that she is actually overcoming certain insecurities, and therefore having green apples in the room will just make that production preparation time. So if you see it that way, then you're not dealing with the difficult artist anymore. You're just dealing with insecurities. You're dealing with situations where you need to hold the hand, but at the same time you can't give in all the way. So when the artist is getting out of hand sometimes, then you have to assess for yourself when do you need to have that sit down heart-to-heart talk with the artist, but in a way that the artist is prepared or ready for that talk. Because again, if it's said in the wrong way, if it's said in a moment of anger, if it's said in that fragility, that relationship that you've built, that trust that you've built between you and the artist will just shatter in that sense. So it's, again, at the end of the day, you ask yourself, why are you doing this, right? Why are you being screamed at, yelled at, as if treated badly by the artist? And you tell yourself, I'm not doing this for the artist. I'm doing it for myself. And therefore, I love my job. You understand what I mean? This is important, okay?
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, if not, I thank you, three of you. Thank you, all of you.
Shall we have another round of applause for the speakers? Thank you, all of you. And also thank all of you for coming. As I said, this is likely the beginning of a process of getting to know more about creative producing, getting a community of creative producers together. If you'd like to give your feedback, there is a survey form that you can jot down your notes. If you'd like to get contact with us, CultureLink, please write to admin@culturelink.com.sg. I mean, it's very heartening to see this turnout, and I suspect that there are probably producers awaiting artists and artists awaiting producers. So it's a question of getting a community together and to discover one another. Actually, we creative producers, we spend a lot of time networking, quite often internationally. So we should be doing some and encouraging networking among ourselves so that we can discover one another. And from my experience, sometimes, it's just over, 2 hours of coffee, strangers really become fast friends. And that's when, ideas start to spark. And then, and then before you know it, you are into something. So thank you very much again. And just to remind that also there is a Facebook page, Creative Producers. Creative Producers SG, please look for it. So please join the page, because we can also follow the activities of the creative producers. We currently have someone in Beijing, and then I hope that if you are interested, please look at the program, and I would encourage you to apply. Thank you very much.